It's always been home, I've always been here, I've always got time for one more beer. So pick up a beer and pull up a chair and strike up the band. It's My Real Portland.
Hello and welcome to My Real Portland. Let's begin tonight's podcast as we always do by recognizing that the land that we gather on is the unceded territory of the Chinook people, including the Multnomah and Clackamas. Coming to you live from the verdant Jade Lounge at 23rd and Southeast Ankeny in my hometown, Portland, Oregon. This is My Real Portland, highlighting real people and real stories from all around the area. I'm your host, Joseph Lyons. And I've got a great show lined up for you this evening, including singer-songwriter Laura Ivancie, City Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty, and comedian Nathan Hart. Okay, not as big of an applause at the end of the list of three, but that will do. We have our favorite people in the audience, Nathan. You'll just be coming up first in a second. So just a few show notes. The May Mother's Day episode next month is going to feature Portland Queer Comedy Festival's founder Belinda Carroll and musician Amanda Richards. And then June's All Pride episode will feature trans comic Karina Lucas and Q Center executive director and activist Cameron Witten. And then in July, on my birthday show, I'll have Deborah Rutan-Williams, and you can find out more about all of my guests at myrealportland.com. I always like to take a moment and say hello to everyone face to face. It is so great to see you all. So are you all enjoying the weather? April showers, right? So last month we were celebrating 70 degrees, and then it just kept raining and everything. But we have good news on the horizon. Oregon is about to make daylight savings time legal. Yeah. Is everyone excited about that? No, people not excited about that? Some things are here to stay. Daylight savings time. Electric scooters are also apparently here to stay. Everyone ride electric scooters around town? No, good. My Real Portland crowd. So Friday, anyone know what Friday was besides the 12th?
The day of silence.
Was it?
It's a day of silence.
Thank you. Tell us more about that, Jo Ann.
Yes, it's a day to acknowledge gay, lesbian, transgender folks, and some people spent the whole day, 24 hours, not talking, right? And as a politician, I can tell you that's a really hard thing to do, right? But it's a way to acknowledge folks and let them know they're not alone, and we're in it together, and to just highlight the fact that so many of our young people live in silence and in the dark and in the quiet, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. Exactly.
Thank you, Jo Ann. Now, I was not expecting the Day of Silence to be the answer to that question. It was, and that's important, but it was also Beverly Cleary's 103rd birthday. So I thought it appropriate to go through my personal library, and I found Beverly Cleary, Henry and the Clubhouse. And this has been on my shelf, I don't know, it's come with all of my books all the time. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to just read a little bit of that? And then I opened it up. Yeah, I will. And then I opened it up, and here's this little note. To Joe, Merry Christmas, Danny and Michelle. Those are my cousins, Danny and Michelle. I had no idea how sentimental this book was. Henry soon found that there was not enough wood in a bathtub crate to build a really good doghouse. As he rode around the neighborhood delivering papers, he kept his eye out for any old boxes or packing cases that he could use. There was one empty house in the neighborhood which he passed every day, hoping he would get some packing cases from the new owners. But the house remained empty. Wood was so scarce that he was about to give up the idea of a house for Ribsy when he had an unexpected piece of luck. Now, most of the houses in Henry's neighborhood had been built way back in the 1920s, when cars were shorter and narrower than they are today. This was written in 1962 in Portland, just so you know. Now, many people were finding their new cars too long for their old garages, and so they built box-like additions onto the ends of the garages to make them long enough for their cars. This was actually happening in the city of Portland, city planning right here from Beverly Cleary. One neighbor, Mr. Bingham, was not so fortunate. When he proudly drove his new car into his garage, he found that there was no way for him to get out of it. His garage was so narrow he could not open the door of his car. So Mr. Bingham backed out and parked his car on the driveway. All the neighbors on Klickitat Street had a good laugh over this, and Mr. Bingham announced that he was going to tear down his old garage and build a larger one. And now what we're doing with those garages, of course, is turning them into ADUs. And so who knew that we would have a little bit of city planning from Beverly Cleary today? Now, on with the show. My first guest is a Portlander by way of Florida. He's a contributing writer for Hard Drive at Hard Times Magazine. He's performed from our own Harvey's Comedy Club to the Seattle Hilarious Comedy Festival. Please welcome to the stage comedian Nathan Hart.
Keep it going for Joseph, everybody. Keep it going for Joseph. Well, yeah, keep it going for the staff here at Jade Lounge. The usually not this on fire Jade Lounge. It's very true. Yeah, I perform here all the time. It's never been this on fire. I've been living in Portland for a few years now. I've learned a lot about the place since I got here. Like, I learned a lot of people in Portland hate that show Portlandia. Yeah, and I understand because I'm from Tampa, Florida. I hate that show Cops. I'm trying to be like a healthier person now that I live here because like I'm athletic the way like a plastic bag is athletic. Like I can dodge traffic, but I'm not going to lift more than 1 gallon of milk. I'm trying to get healthier now that I live here, but all that actually means that I'm eating way more trail mix than I used to. And I don't think that's good enough. I don't think there's any sort of alchemy that turns M&Ms into health food just because you mixed them with granola and then implied you can only eat them outside. Now, alchemy is if you put weed chocolate in your trail mix, it transmutes into couch mix. It's like lead into gold if gold made you eat all of the lead in your studio apartment. Yeah, I've been like drinking a lot of kombucha now, even though kombucha tastes like a beer wants to tell me about its horoscope. Yeah, same way I've been like trying to get real into meditation, even though the closest I can get to meditation is pooping while my phone is dead. Yeah, like I want to be a healthier person, but I don't want to put that much effort into it. Like I feel like I'm the kind of person that should probably never have children. Like it's a responsible choice for me to not have children. Like I wouldn't be a good dad for myself. The other day I tried to help myself tie my own tie. I ended up going out for cigarettes and never coming back. Yeah, I'm trying to be healthier. Like I'm glad that I was born in this time period instead of an earlier one. Like, it would have been real cool to be around in, like, cave people times, only I would have been the kind of caveman that has to worry about predatory birds. You know, like, I'm walking home from work, I've been out all day hunting or gathering. Okay, gathering. And then I just go, cree, and then I'm off, and some large bird thinks it's caught a smaller bird. I don't know. It would be real cool to live in the past, only, like, seems scary, too. Seems just as scary to live in the present sometimes. Like, I bet cavemen were way less scared of tigers than I am of my phone ringing twice in a row. Technology's terrifying. Like, I'm real worried about robots now because of how much I like self-checkout at the grocery store. I like self-checkout because I don't want to have to talk to anyone while I'm high at 2 p.m. trying to buy weird meat. I'm not picking up a half pound of buffalo so I can have a conversation with somebody who also dropped out of community college. You know, that phrase goes, if you've got time to lean, you're getting replaced by a machine. Oh, man. I love when the crowd gets into that one, and I just really dampen all our moods at the same time. That's really what I did there. Sometimes everyone's like, all right, he got us. And sometimes we're like, oh, yeah, he got us. Yeah, it's the end of the world, isn't it? Cool. Yeah. Last time I used self-checkout, I thanked the guy who watched me bag my own groceries. And that guy ignored me. Turns out he took a job as a cash register's bodyguard so he doesn't have to talk to anyone while he's high at 2 p.m. watching people pick out weird meat. A lot of people are scared of self-driving cars. Me, personally, way more scared of self-driving people because people have been shitty at driving the entire time we've been doing it. Like, I bet one of the first people to get behind the wheel of a Model T was like, yeah, this thing's cool and all, but can it drift? Do you think if I gun it right now, I can jump this cobblestone bridge? Thing is, like, accidents are still going to happen even after the cars take over all the driving. Only then accidents are only going to happen because of math going wrong. Nowadays, when accidents happen, a lot of the days, that's just emotions. Like, your self-driving car is never going to start going 75 and tailgating on the interstate because its marriage is falling apart. Yeah, I like doing dangerous things sometimes. Sometimes I think the only reason I want to be a healthier person is so I can do risky, stupid things for longer and more often. One time I went skydiving, and I did what's called a tandem jump. That's where you don't know how to skydive, so they strap you to the front end of a Red Bull commercial that does. So I'm in the plane, and I'm on the front end of this 6.5-foot tall dude named Curtis who learned how to jump out of planes in the Marines. And Curtis makes me feel like a baby kangaroo through our entire interaction. We're about to jump out of the plane, and he's running through some instructions with me, like hold your arms out like this on the way down, bend your knees when we land. And then in the middle of those legitimate instructions, Curtis asks me, who are you going to be praying to out there? And I'm not sure what to tell him, because I'm not like really an atheist, but I'm definitely not religious. I just didn't want him to hand me a pamphlet halfway down. Turns out Curtis was making a joke. And the punchline to Curtis's joke was, pray to the guy who's pulling your parachute. Which is a decent joke. That's good enough. It's a joke, yes. Only then I realized a little bit later that I've never had a day job where I can casually remind all my customers that I could kill them at any moment. Milk's on aisle 5. I have a knife. Yeah, all right, I'm going to run through one more bit and go ahead and do this interview thing. Where did I put oh, there is no mic stand. Old habits, everyone. Yeah, I've been spending way too much time on Facebook lately, and I'm not doing anything good with it. Like, I'm just on Facebook to find out what bad shit has been happening to my friends since high school. I don't want to hear good news on Facebook. I don't want to hear about how you just got a new job, or you just graduated college, or you're really happy you just had a baby. I want to hear about how you just dropped out, got fired, and you're really sad you just had a baby. I'm not on Facebook to find out my ex is fucking a doctor. I'm on Facebook to find out my ex is fucking a DJ that calls himself the Doctor. All right. Thank you all. This has been great. I'll be right here, I guess. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Hart.
Woo! Where'd this drink come from?
Magic. So this is your 5th year doing comedy.
Yep.
Now you got started in Tampa before you moved here?
Yeah, St. Petersburg technically, but I round up to Tampa.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so what did you come directly to Portland?
Yeah, drove all the way here, took like 11 days. Didn't have an apartment lined up, got real lucky, like really lucky, because apartments don't exist here as far as I can tell.
Now you just moved out of your first apartment, right?
My first one here. Yeah, I moved several blocks further away downtown.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Several blocks away is that's still moving up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what other jobs have you had besides doing comedy?
My day job, I work at a bar downtown. They give me like daytime hours and I do a bunch of bar prep stuff.
Daytime bar. That sounds fun.
Yeah. I don't have to bartend, so I don't have to talk to anyone.
there you go.
I just get to pop some headphones in, zone out for like 6 to 8 hours and make a bunch of syrups. It's
then
weird.
after that, you get to go make people laugh.
Right, yeah.
That
They've
sounds
been
like
really
a good life.
It doesn't happen often in comedy where you like just get a day job that's completely supportive, because most people, you can't even really explain what you're doing at night.
Right.
They're like, what, you just go out and talk to people and they pay you in drinks and you're expecting this to work out somehow, and I don't understand. Why am I supposed to give you time off for this? But my current day job, they've been really cool and supportive, and because of that, I'm not going to say their name out loud.
Well, the company that you won't say out loud actually allowed you some time off, it sounds like, to go up to Alaska for the Alaska Before You Die festival.
Yeah, the first comedy festival that ever happened in Alaska.
That's fantastic. How many comics?
55. That's
a big deal for Alaska.
Yeah,
55
they pulled a bunch of people up there. It was headlined by Kyle Kinane. He's the voice of Comedy Central. He's like that guy, that gravelly noise in between slides and stuff. That guy. And then Derek Sheen. It was another one of the headliners that people might be aware of around here because he's still a big Seattle guy.
Right.
So really great time though. I was really pleasantly surprised by how much Alaska was into comedy. I was like, I thought it was gonna be guns aimed at me, and I don't know what to expect. I've been a lot of places, and sometimes that's been the case. So
people with guns need to laugh too.
Yeah,
I assume.
very true.
I don't know.
Very true.
I just have to assume that. Who else have you worked with? Derek Sheen. I mean, I know those names. Who else? Who's been the biggest name you've worked with?
I got to work with Andy Andrist. He was a guy on he's on the Doug Stanhope podcast a lot. If you go look that up, that's a real fun, dangerous thing that like half of you aren't gonna like.
It's not a My Real Portland crowd kind of a thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't put you guys in the same podcasting box. Yeah.
So, how many you perform at Harvey's Comedy Club?
Yeah.
It sounds like quite a bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm there every once in a while. I'm doing a competition on the last Wednesday of this month. I want to say it's the 24th. I'm doing a little competition there in the corner office. Fun little thing to get some more stage time on the main stage. And then I've got a hosting weekend there in July.
Very cool.
They book way out on that one. So I'm but that place is cool.
Yeah.
It's
What other places have you performed in? Like, what are some of your favorite venues?
I don't like to say what my favorite venue is, because then everyone else who isn't my favorite venue is now a little more mad at me if they happen to hear it. So I'll tell you my second favorite venue.
Yeah.
My second favorite venue in this city is Helium Comedy Club. Yeah, they're great. They got a lot of national headliners. They've got a great open mic on Tuesdays. A lot of my friends put on like independent shows theirs on Wednesdays that you should encourage them to book me for more often. But no, Helium's probably one of the best places to see comedy in the city.
That's absolutely right. Now I'm really curious about where the first one is. There's lots of
choices
out there.
There's a lot of places it could be. There's great comedy here every Thursday with
That's true. And tonight, by the way, at 8 o'clock, just right through these doors.
Another great show here, 8 o'clock, right over there. Yeah.
Okay, so you're from Florida.
Yeah.
You're familiar with Florida Man.
Uh-huh.
So, is the audience familiar with Florida Man? Okay, so what this is if you go to Google and you type Florida Man and like a date or just any noun or anything, something is bound to come up as a police report that connects some Florida man with whatever negative thing it is.
Can I explain why that is actually? Because
you can try to explain it away
I can
like
try
everyone
to
tries to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the reason that you see all these Florida man stories, Florida's pretty fucked up. Don't get me wrong. A lot of weird things happen there. But the reason you see all these stories is actually because they have looser journalistic reporting laws that make it much easier for journalists to get police data. So it's a lot simpler for them to get these same stories that are probably happening everywhere to a lesser degree. Again, I'm not saying Florida's a tame place by any means, but point is, they have good journalists, not terrible people.
Well, so I have some headlines here, and I searched Florida Man, and then I also searched Oregon Man, and I'm going to see if you can tell the difference between these headlines.
Okay, this is gonna have nothing to do with journalistic reporting, lads.
That's correct. Okay, the first one. Blank man denies syringes found in his rectum are his.
Oregon man.
That's Florida.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say no one shoots drugs there, but apparently I'm wrong. Yeah.
You're not familiar with the rectum syringes. Blank man accused of stealing Girl Scout cookies from his daughter.
I'm gonna go with Florida, actually.
You're bucking the residents of Oregon who have newspapers, probably some of the most news literate people.
Okay.
And you're just saying no, I'm not going to listen to them. I'm going Florida.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it ride. Going to Florida. Let's do this. Let's go Oregon.
That's Oregon. That is
damn it.
definitely Oregon.
Okay, next time I'm gonna listen to you guys. Next time.
Okay, blank man finds a World War II grenade, puts it in his truck, and drives to a Taco Bell.
I'm really? Oregon man?
Well, this time you went with the crowd, and they were wrong.
Oh, God damn it.
That was Florida.
My impulses were like, I'm pretty sure that happened down the street from me. And, but
okay, this one's disturbing. So I do when I post this podcast, it does say explicit lyrics. Blank man sentenced to prison for sexually assaulting a horse.
That's Florida. That's got to be Florida. That's got to be Florida. Really?
I am so ashamed of my state.
How am I doing this right
don't
now?
know. You're getting it all wrong.
So far, 0% wins. Yeah.
Hey, this is pretty good. You must actually be on the transition away from being Florida man. This is good. I assume. Otherwise.
Florida man loses local game show quiz.
Okay, here's the last one. Blank man arrested after hitting dad with pizza because he was mad he helped birth him.
That sounds Oregon.
Yeah, I want to say Florida because of the violence, but Oregon because of the entitlement. So, Florida.
You got one right.
I got one right, everyone. I got one right.
Okay, so where else can people see you? How can people follow you? You're on Twitter is Starving Hardest.
Starving Hardest on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and I think the other ones too. Honestly, if you type that in, it'll probably pop up if you're looking for it. I'll be back here at Jade Lounge. When's this air?
The 16th.
The 16th.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Why did I even ask that if I don't know what day it is? Okay. I'll be back here next Wednesday here in the Jade Lounge. Yeah, they've got a new showcase here on I Hope Wednesdays. But if that's wrong, look it up. And then you can catch me at Harvey's Comedy Club every once in a while. And I'm out of the production game. I don't run a regular show anymore. I'm out of that whole thing. Yeah. But look up all my funny friends and stuff too. There's a lot of great comedy in Portland. And check out pdxstandup.com for local listings. Yeah, do that. Great. There we go. Thanks.
Okay, that sound means it's time for the Portland Questionnaire. Nathan, are you ready for the Portland Questionnaire?
Yeah, I think.
Nathan, what's your favorite smell in Portland?
River water. Big fan.
What is your favorite?
Not kidding.
What is your favorite sound in Portland?
The streetcar when I thought I already missed the last one.
Oh, I love that one. What's your favorite bridge in Portland?
Hawthorne.
What famous Portlandian would you most like to meet?
Shit. Oh man, I'm not good with that. Can I get a lifeline from the crowd on that one? Boom! There we go. Done. Am I losing 2 quizzes in a row right now?
Okay, where would we most likely find you for weekend breakfast? 3 a.m. at the Hot Cake House.
That one.
Okay. If you could rename any Portland street, which street would you name, and which street would you rename?
Harvey Milk Street into Harvey Milk Double Plus Good Street. Be a long sign.
I'm down with the DPG. Right?
The sign can just take up the whole street. We'll just put it along the side of it.
If you were a tree, which Portland area park would you like to be planted in?
Park blocks, so my buddy Fred has somewhere to sleep.
I love it. Okay, now that's it. Thank you one more time for Nathan Hart. When I asked my musical guest on my March show who he would most like to meet, Mike Crenshaw, his answer was an unequivocal and immediate Jo Ann Hardesty. Please welcome to the stage your city commissioner, Jo Ann Hardesty. So, Jo Ann, I'm going to start with a really difficult question. I'm Joe Carl. I was named after my grandpa Joe and my great-grandpa Carl. Who's Jo Ann?
My family was not very creative when they came up with names.
You were the fourth daughter, yeah?
I was the fourth daughter, and there were 6 boys after me.
Wow.
And, I mean, the names in my family, I am happy that I was named Joanne. I could have been Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been Jane. I could have been Deborah.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very nice names. However, there's nothing creative about those.
Right.
It's like they went to the Catholic Church and went, what do you have?
You know, Joe and Carl, this very regal name. It's, you know, a king and then a king. So you were born in Baltimore. You're the fourth,
Yes.
and then 6 boys after you.
Yes.
How does that affect your growing up as a kid? By I know that you're working as early as 13.
Yes.
How is
So
growing up part of a big family?
I dominated my little brothers.
Oh.
Yes, right? So I just grew up like saying, I am the boss of you, and you have to do what I say.
That's awesome. And then you go on to the Navy where
Yes.
we're having a boss and you know, having lots of strict rules is part of that. Did that feel natural?
Oh, it was hysterical because, you know, I didn't know what feminist meant.
Really?
And, yes. And so I joined the Navy, and I'm like 18, 19 years old. And I'm like, you can't call me baby. My name is Petty Officer Allen at the time, right? So people were like, you know who that was? I don't care who that was, right? Unless they're giving me their paycheck, they can't call me baby, right?
Right?
I mean, it's like I didn't even understand what feminist was.
Interesting.
Which is why I always believe I've had guardian angels looking out for me because my mouth gets me in trouble a lot.
Well, and you said in a recent podcast you were talking about your Navy experience that you were one of the first women to be stationed on a ship at sea and you still had to dock every 7 days?
Every 4 days because they thought women would go crazy if they were on board ship for longer than 4 days. And so the psychologist had told them 4 days was the limit. Otherwise, women would lose their mind.
Isn't that something? What year was this?
Let's see. I'm old, so I can't actually even think back there. So I got out of the Navy in '83. So that gives you some concept of how long ago that was.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a little while ago.
You know, that's one thing. You know, I have been I have been listening to so many different podcasts and everything about you, and that's one thing I don't know is your age, and it doesn't seem important to me at all. But your career is so long, and you've done so many different roles. You said that running for this position as city commissioner, you were motivated by anger. Were you motivated by anger when you ran for House of Representatives?
No, when I ran for House of Representatives, I got a call from my state representative, Avell Gordley, and she said, yes, right? And she said, you know, our state senator, Ron Cease, is retiring, and I'm going to run for his state senate seat. And I went, oh my gosh, who's going to represent me? And she went, you. And I went, I said, I can't do that. People ask me what I think, I tell them.
Right.
Not a good quality for a politician, right? And she said, call 50 people. And by the time I was done with those calls, I was a candidate for the state
Is that right?
representative. Yep.
Wow. So there's one of the guardian angels that you've talked about. Another one that you've mentioned in the past, or several times, as being a big motivator for you to get into politics, or I should say, not even politics, but running for office, was Bev Stein.
Absolutely. Bev Stein is my shero. Because when I went to work for her, I hated politicians, right? I didn't trust them. I didn't believe they told the truth. So for the first 2 years I worked for Bev Stein, I followed her around town. I'd be in the back of the room, and so she'd go to a meeting in Northwest. I'd look at her calendar. I'd be in the back of the room listening to what she said. She went to a meeting in the inner Northeast. I'd be in the back of the room listening to what she said. And you know what was awesome? She said the same thing no matter what part of town she was in. And I went, whoa, you can be a politician and do that? That's cool, right? So she's my model for someone who can live a value system and say, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. You either support it or you don't, but at least you know why, right? And so she's been my North Star in politics. I say a lot, what would Bev Stein do, right? And then I call her in Tillamook and make her husband mad.
So if she's a shero, I'm curious, who are you a shero to? Who are the leaders now?
Oh, great question. Well, so I spend a lot of time in schools. And I love going to middle schools because those kids have no boundaries. They'll just ask you whatever's on their mind, right? I love going to schools. For example, I spent most of Friday at Madison. And I talked to their racial justice cohort. And, you know, kids have no boundaries. They're just like, this isn't fair. And I'm like, you're right. So what are you going to do about it, right? They're so used to people saying, you know, you're young, right?
Right.
Get out of school first. You know, it's not your time yet, right? And so I'm one of the people that go in and say, you know, 8-year-olds went to jail for the civil rights movement. And they went to jail every night, and they did their homework in jail. And when they got in the morning, they went back to school, right? Kids have always changed our world.
Right.
And we don't tell them that enough, right? You have the tools today, right? And what you're thinking, what you're saying is not fair, you're right. So what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Right? Organize, right? That's what I tell them. And so I had a great time at Madison. I talked to about 3 different classes. And young people in our society, they have so much more access to information than we ever had, right? I mean, the civil rights movement would have been over in 10 days if we'd had Facebook and we'd had a Snapchat and we'd had Twitter, right? In 10 days, it would have been over, right? But young people...
That's a bold prediction. I'm curious about that.
It would have been over, right? I mean, we had mimeograph machines. You remember those, right?
It took a long time to get information out, right?
You'd be drunk for weeks, right?
Yeah.
Because you smelled that ink, right? But you had to go door to door with flyers, right? Today, you can send a message out across the world in 30 seconds, right? It is so phenomenal what we have the ability to do, but yet we tell young people, it's, you know, you got to wait, right? It's not your turn.
Right.
I tell them, take over, right? Do it.
I wish I had had somebody like you to come into the schools when I was a kid. When I was in 1991, I went to my science teacher with a proposal called Students Together for AIDS Awareness and Research. And my science teacher backed this proposal, and I wrote this whole proposal up, and I got kids to sign it, and I went to the principal, and he just shot it down. And that was the moment where I thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this here. I was already, a member of Queer Nation out here and the rest of the public. I was with ACT UP. But my school was not ready for me. I think schools are a lot more ready now to accept that young people are going to be active. I mean, even with environmental concerns and their activism on so many things.
Oh, so I had the privilege of speaking at the Student Climate Justice Day of Action.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like 8 young people come into my office and said, would you sponsor our event?
Yeah.
We're going to have a Climate Justice Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, most adults, right? I was like, oh, so tell me what your message is, right? And they're like, we just need to like draw a line in the sand. Climate justice is, we need to be about climate justice, right? Climate change is happening today. And I was like, okay, so how many people do you think you're going to bring, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said 1,000, right? I'm thinking to myself, if they have 100, wouldn't that be fabulous, right? That's going to be such, it'll be cute, right? So I'm sitting in my office the day of action, in this meeting, and I'm watching young people come from every corner, convening at City Hall. By the time I got outside, there were 4,000 young people.
Oh, wow.
They were elementary school, middle school, high school, 4,000 young people, right? The security at City Hall were losing their mind. They were like, oh my
All these
God.
little kids.
Right? And so they said to me, Commissioner, would you go out and ask them like to not stand on the flowers and to protect the building because it's old and right? And so I said to them. And so I went back to the podium, and by the way, I was only the adult that they allowed to speak that day, right? And I went to them and I said, what is the story you want to hear on the evening news? Do you want to hear the story about the damage that young people cause downtown? Or do you want your message about climate change being the one that leads the evening news all over the country, right? Do you know those young people had people surrounding the flower beds to make sure that the flower beds were not damaged?
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
They were better than most adults. And you know, I had to say something about adults coming to City Hall who lose their mind when they show up.
I
right?
want to ask you about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right? These young people. And so they got it, right?
Yeah.
They knew that any incident, right, would be all about the incident and not about climate change. I was so proud of those young people. 4,000 of them convened at City Hall in one day at one time,
And
and they marched downtown, and nothing bad happened.
and their elected leader helped them
Yes.
to understand how to make their message more effective and more clear.
Yes.
What a unique thing for a politician to be doing.
Right? Hey, right?
So I call you a politician because you're an elected leader, but you've said many times that you're not a politician.
I am
You're
not
a community
a politician.
organizer.
I am a community organizer by trade,
Right.
and I'm a public servant by profession.
Right.
Yes.
Now, you had made a couple of mentions in your, I believe it was your acceptance speech, where you said, or one of your speeches, that you know what you did when Obama got elected. Everyone just sat back and put their feet up. You asked people, you know, like Obama did, make me do the work. What work do you need us to help you do?
And so I need you to help me get funding for the Portland Street response.
Okay.
Today, I have the privilege of managing the 911 call center, the Bureau of Emergency Management, and Fire and Rescue. But I can tell you when people call 911, now we've had a 40% increase in calls to 911 because of unwanted people, right? It is not okay to call 911 for unwanted people, right?
Right.
It is not okay to call 911 because you're uncomfortable with what somebody looks like, the fact that they're sleeping in a tent. And so first, we have to retrain the public about what 911 does,
Right.
right? And then we have to send the right first responder to the incident at the right time, right? Now, I want to put in place a response to calls to 911. Today, if you call 911, you get the police, you may get a fire engine, and you may even get an ambulance because we're unsure who to send. So the Portland Street Response will match a, guess what, mental health professional with a EMT or a peer support person who will go out on these calls and maybe bring some hot coffee, maybe bring some soup, and maybe sit and have a conversation. So what's going on, right? What do you need, right? Did you get your medicine? What's up, right? It is inappropriate to send people with weapons for people who are suffering a mental health issue, right? We have 24-hour triage nurses that are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we don't utilize them when someone calls with a medical issue. In fact, with the fire and rescue, 80% of our calls are not fires, they're medical calls, right? So we're sending the wrong first responder to respond to incidents where people are seeking help. Now, I don't have a medical degree, but it's not rocket science that when you're suffering from a mental health issue, you are not going to respond in a manner that people who are not suffering from a mental health issue would respond, right? So why have we as a community accepted that when people die because somebody called for help, that nobody did anything wrong? But somebody died, somebody got a vacation, that person had no mental health treatment that had the vacation, and then we give them a weapon again and put them back on the street and say, you didn't do anything wrong, it's all good, right? What a stupid approach, right?
Right.
What a waste of public safety resources, right? And so what I want to do is make sure that we send the right first responder to the right incident at the right time. And you know what's cool about that? I am the boss of the 911 center.
Right.
I am the boss of the fire and rescue. I am the boss of the emergency response system.
Right.
So I don't have the police, but I actually don't need the police.
You don't need the police
No.
in order to make changes. Now, so I've been wondering, so I'm just going to show my a little naivete. This is a question that I wrote beforehand, before I started really diving into the research, and I know that you've already responded to this. One of the things that you've said is that we can be more efficient with the police by removing some of the departments that aren't actually serving the people.
Yes.
But then I also hear from the police department that we're supposedly under-hired 100 police officers, and yet the job that we're asking them to do is to go out, the job that they're saying is the hardest for them to deal with is the houseless people. Why would I possibly think that I want the more police to be dealing with that issue? When I wrote that question, I had no idea that you even had the Portland Street Response program, so that's already there. But what
It's not there, but I'm going to get it in this budget, right? So the mayor's budget comes out on May 1st.
Okay.
And it needs to be in the mayor's budget.
So we need to be working on getting that over the next 15 days into the budget.
Now, the mayor has said he's going to let me do this.
Okay. Well, isn't that kind?
I thought that was very thoughtful of him. He's going to let me, right?
Generous.
But I'm a community organizer, so I can count to 3 because I only need 2 other votes to do anything I need to do, right? And so I appreciate the mayor's willingness to let me do this, right? But I can assure you that whether the mayor lets me or not, I think that the community support and support of my colleagues on the city council, we know that we have a broken system. And what we know is that what we're doing doesn't work.
Right.
So why not try something innovative, something different, something that doesn't require, do you know last year 52% of the people arrested by Portland police, but for being homeless, would have never been arrested. So talk about wasting our public safety resources. We have 28 police officers that all day, every day, go out looking for gang members, And 52% of their stops are of African American people in a city with a 6% African American population.
Right.
Now do the math, right?
Right.
It's like, even if you believe the police that gang activity is rampant, the police say gang activity happens between 12 and 24. We actually don't have enough 12 to 24-year-old black people in Portland to justify 52% of their stops
That's absolutely
being
correct.
of African Americans.
Right.
But the fact that I'm the only one that says, how is that even possible, should cause all of us to be concerned, right?
So, Joanne, I want to tell you about, because this is the right time to talk about policing. When I was coming out in 1990, 1991, the Portland Police, with Mayor Vera Katz and then Chief of Police Tom Potter, were constructing routine raids of the gay and lesbian nightclubs, city nightclub. This was the place that I would have been. This would have been my refuge. And so we knew it was an unsafe place to be, not because of the threats of drugs and child pornography, but because the police were going to come raid our club.
That's right.
Because of threats of drugs. And so we all knew that that was all a sham. Right. We all knew that they were targeting us because we were sexual minorities. That must feel exactly the same situation you're in with the gangs and the and you've already the police work in gangs and the work that you've already done to change the policing to get us out of the joint
terrorism task force,
right? So you've already been able to make some great changes around policing without having that be part of your commission.
Yes.
Is there more that's going to be happening along those lines?
Oh, yeah. So, for example, in November 2020, the Portland Police Association's contract expires.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned over the years, and Sam Adams actually helped me learn this, is that the city of Portland's elected leaders gave away oversight of police 20 years ago. Right? In fact, since I've been on the city council, I learned that I am not allowed to use a police officer's name from the podium if it might embarrass him.
Right.
Because
that
that's
code
actually
20-something.
it's actually
rather.
part of the contract.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We had a rule, 48-hour rule, which said police who used deadly force against a community member could not be questioned for 48 hours. And if I pulled out a gun and shot you right now, the police would not give me 48 hours to be able to articulate why I shot you.
Right.
But they were so traumatized that they needed that time before they could articulate a reason why. So you asked me, how can you help? Portland Street Response, be an advocate to make sure that we fund that and that we fund it over the next 3 years. I want to be judged, if I run for re-election, by whether or not I change who first responders were for people who were in crisis, right? That's the line in the sand that I'm drawing, right? If we can't send the right people, then we shouldn't send anybody, right?
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, the police want to play with body cams. There's an $800,000 allocation that I think should come back to the general fund. But the mayor says he's promised the police that they could have a pilot project with body cams. I did a focus group last evening at a theater, and I'm going to do it right here.
Sure.
By a show of hands, how many people support body cams? Hands up in the air high? Okay. Now, how many people would support body cams knowing that police are the only people who have access to the video, that they get to review the video before they write a written report, and that the public will never have any access to that video?
Right.
By a show of hands, how many people still support body cams? None of you? Well, you know that happened at the theater last night, too, right?
Strange how that works.
Strange, right?
Yeah.
Because it's sold to the public as an accountability measure,
Right.
right?
Right.
But how many people in the public know that Taser actually sells body cams and also sells body cam storage and also has done most of the early research on how effective body cams are, right? So the police bureau already has that $800,000 in their budget.
Okay.
I'm actually working to get that $800,000 given back to the general fund, because why would we buy and let them for $800,000
For something that's
somebody-
not going to help us and protect us and keep us safer.
and for something that we actually can't even afford the storage of the video,
Right.
right? So it's not, the $800,000 is just for the body cams, just for them to play with them for 6 months, and then come back and sell to us.
Yeah,
what a
like
great-
Udemine said, 6 months? I didn't even get that part. Wow.
The infrastructure is not included in that $800,000.
Jeez.
Right. It's going to be, well, it's at least millions, right? But police want to have the authority of deciding when they should be turned on. So again, what's accountability, right? I mean, because if I was actually going to support body cams, I didn't want them on for the entire shift, right? However, they say, but victims don't want to be on camera, right? And we have to be able to decide when it's appropriate to turn those cameras on. Now, how many of us have seen people on police body cams killed across the country, right? Well, I mean, but you've seen the police with the body cameras on, and people have died, and how many of them have been prosecuted?
No.
Right? And how much of that information is really accessible to the public? The police decide what we see, right?
Right.
So again, why would we pay for that?
Right.
Who would call that accountability, right?
And and so that's something that you can obviously work on shifting from your position not overseeing police.
I don't oversee police, but they were going to want my vote on the budget.
Right.
And so if they want my vote on the budget, I have a dirty dozen list of money that's been allocated that I think should actually come back to the general fund.
Ooh.
So that we could use it for good stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like the gang enforcement unit.
Like about how much total out of the 12 programs?
Well, I don't even want to use it all for my program. I just want to use a piece of it. But we're
Just to
talking
be able to go back
tens-
into general
We're
fund.
talking about tens of millions of dollars,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Right? Because, for example, if you think about the fact that there are 120 vacant positions in Portland Police Bureau, and the new unarmed who are also part of the police association that we can't fire police officers from, they've only been able to recruit 2 people, right? So I say let's just call that program a failure
Right.
and put that money back in the general fund, right? Let's take the 28 officers, the $4.3 million that we currently spend on gang enforcement officers, and put that back in the general fund, right?
Right.
Let's take the police officers who currently are school resource officers, and let's retrain them and put them on the street as patrol officers. When I asked Chief Outlaw, so we have 323 officers available for patrol, but we have 1,000 officers. And I found out that we have like 500 supervisors.
That's a lot of paperwork to push around.
I'm like, well, since we're in a crisis, don't you think we should like put some of those people on the street,
Right.
right? Have them actually going out to calls? Oh, well, no, the contract won't allow us to do that. So that's why in November 2020, when that contract's up for renewal, we need to not just tinker around the edges. We need to blow it up
Right.
and walk in with a brand new contract that actually represents the will of the people.
So we also have a new. We're going to have an election in November 2020. Like Teresa Rayford's running, and
And there are 3 seats up.
so this budget is going to get passed in November, but then a new mayor will and a new council will be overseeing that new police in 2020. Correct?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be in January of 2021.
In 2021. Yeah.
Right? But it is possible. We have 3 seats up in 2020. There will probably be a very, very crowded field for all the seats that are up.
Yeah.
I'm not making any bets right now about whether incumbents will be reelected or whether there will be new blood and new vision.
Sure.
But I'm certainly looking forward to having some more people who think that working people, people who actually have compassion and empathy for our community, should be elected to serve and represent the people in the city of Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
One of the things that you said in your acceptance speech also was that you wanted, or it might have been some, I've been listening to so much of Jo Ann over the last 2 months. It's so funny to have her right next to me. You said that you thought after you got elected that people shouldn't need to come to City Hall.
Yes.
That, like your campaign, 150 house parties and the huge street team that you had with community organizing and that background.
Just yesterday,
Yeah.
I have a community budget forum. We had at Vernon Elementary School. Must have had about 75 community members show up. Because I actually thought it's my job to help people understand the city budget, right?
Right.
And so I have gone to, the city of Portland has had 3 budget forums so far, and most of them are train wrecks, right?
Sure.
And they're train wrecks because we don't do a good job of preparing people to give good testimony,
Right.
And so the first thing we did at our community budget forum was to do a budget 101. This is where the money comes from. This is how much is general fund. Here are the competitions in general fund. And here's the money we actually have to spend based on how we collected it, right? Real basic 101, right? When people have better information, they make better choices,
Sure.
right? And so it was fascinating to look at all the little sticky notes on the wall on where people wanted us to invest resources and where they wanted to take money away. And the biggest visual was people wanting money to come from the police and support parks and housing and homeless services, right? People were very, very clear about that, but we don't do a good job of preparing people to participate in a meaningful way,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so, yes, one of my campaign promises, and I was able to say to people, I'm checking another box. That was another campaign promise. I believe we should bring City Hall to you and not vice versa. So on 117th Avenue, off of Start, we had a city budget forum. And it was very well attended, and people got it, and they participated well.
So I'm from East County, and actually when I was growing up, it wasn't Portland. It was called East County.
Yes,
we weren't either Portland or Gresham yet.
You weren't incorporated yet.
Right, and it was a big deal when Portland wanted to come out and make us part of the city.
Gussie McRoberts wanted to secede from the county.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, I was
That's
here.
hilarious. I forgot all about that. So in context of that, we've had this new report that, frankly, I'm a little bit suspicious of. So I want to ask you about it. This new report that came out after 2 black women are running for the city commission seat. Now all of a sudden there's a report that says, wait a minute, we should change all of that. We shouldn't have this, right?
We need to change our form of government. One of them got in.
Right? Or one of them is bound to get in. I mean, that was almost the message at the time. So I'm suspicious of it. And what it would do is break apart the idea of having our commission-based government where you get to oversee these emergency departments and would rather be a geographically elected position. I was looking at the election results, and it didn't look like that string of East County was as strong for
Yes.
you, even though you were running on issues that I know from having been an East County resident was responding to their concerns.
Yes.
How was your outreach in the East County area? What was that
people
like?
in East Portland are unfamiliar with people running for office knocking on their door.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very suspicious of people who say, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. For very good reason, right?
Yeah. And both of us
Right.
can understand that.
Yes,
We have
yes.
very good reason for
Yes.
each of us, and
Right.
so a lot of people have that same distrust of government.
I
How
gotta
do you work
tell
past that?
We had some fabulous conversations on the doorstep in East Portland, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
People would say, "You were the first person who's ever run for office who's knocked on my door,"
Mm-hmm.
right? When people feel like they're totally disconnected from their government doesn't care what they think, they're disconnected from it.
Right.
I'm trying to put food on the table. I'm trying to keep a roof over my head. I'm trying to get my kids educated. I don't have time for this nonsense that's so far away that unless I take off work, get a babysitter, I can never have my voice be heard.
Right.
So why would they believe me when I knock on their door and say, "But I'm going to bring City Hall to you"? Yeah, right. Heard that before, right?
Sure, right.
And so what I love is that more and more people in East Portland feel that they are represented today more so than they've ever been in the history of the city of Portland.
Right.
Now, in 167 years, we've only had 8 women elected. 8, right? 2 African-American men. But it's been like over 20 years since the last one was in office. And now you got me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get accused of being a bully. Have you been following that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and leading up through the election, there was accusations about different things, and
Yes.
then since then with police officers, and then also, I want to hear about that, but then I also want to hear about one of the first things that you did as commissioner. But tell me
All
more.
right. Well, let me just say that there was certainly, I don't look like what many people perceive a city commissioner should look like.
Mm-hmm.
You might notice I got dreads, got dark complexion. I actually speak my truth wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to impress people.
Right.
And that's just not the image that people have of a city commissioner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so throughout the campaign, there were people that tried to assault my character,
Right.
assault my reasons for running, assault my history.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed focused. I know who I am. I know what I've done. I know why I was running. It wasn't about me ever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
I only did it because I was so mad.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to live in that city, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do something to make it not be that city, right? And what's wonderful is that on election night,
Mm-hmm.
right at 8 p.m., there was an announcement made that 67% of voters thought I was the right choice.
Right.
Right?
Uh-huh. Mandate.
I call that a mandate.
Right.
So when I show up at City Hall, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, people, but I represent the people, and this is what they want.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a city commissioner on my show, I was thinking, you know, when you're a little kid, you get trained like what to do if you meet the queen or the president, you know. I mean, fuck the president, first of all. And you know, talk about, you know, it would be great to meet the queen, but I actually get to meet someone with influence and power and uses it. I mean,
Shannon Olive, man. Her and I did this fabulous voter registration project back in 2000 where we registered 57,000 voters across the state.
wow.
And let me tell you who the people were that were part of our posse.
Mm-hmm.
They were ex-felons. They were people who were in alcohol and drug treatment programs. They were people living in halfway houses.
Mm-hmm.
People say, you are out of your mind. I was like, no. Those are my leaders.
They're human
Those are
beings.
the people
Yeah.
that we need to go out and register voters and get people excited about the election. And Shannon Olive registered 4,000 voters herself personally. On the bus with her clipboard, right?
That is awesome.
So the power of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look people eyeball to eyeball and you say, hey, this is about you.
Right.
And ex-felons will say, well, I can't vote. Well, yes, you can in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You never lost your right to vote. Only when you're incarcerated. The day you get out, you can register.
Right.
Most people don't, most politicians don't know that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You said in your acceptance speech that by electing you, that it proved Portland to be the city that you knew it to be.
Yes.
And I resonate so much with that because our city gets a lot of shit for a lot of our history and a lot of our current.
Yes.
And probably a lot of our future.
Yes.
But they're 67%.
67%.
Voted
The people
for you,
spoke.
right?
Yes.
And so when the city actually runs an actual person who's not running just to be in politics, but is running to actually represent the people, our city actually shows up. Is
The
that
city
what you know of the
shows
city?
up in droves. I
Mhm.
mean, I had over 500 volunteers that consistently knocked on doors, went to festivals, made phone calls, text folks. I mean, people were committed to this campaign in ways that I had not seen in decades,
Mhm.
right? Because I'd done the work. Over the years, I've shown up. When I first got here, oh my God, OCA was in full. Oregon Citizen Alliance was in
Yep.
full activity, right?
Yep.
And I went, wait a minute, this is a progressive city and they're trying to do what?
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the front line, not because I'm gay, lesbian, or transgender, but because it wasn't fair,
Right.
right?
Right.
I just jumped into the fight. So I was the no on 9 and the no on 49, and I was public. But let me say, even the gay community wasn't that accepting of people of color.
Oh, hell
right?
no.
It was all
Well,
about.
we couldn't even get gays and lesbians to be in the same room together.
That's true.
So,
right.
I mean,
The men would organize one place and the women would organize somewhere else.
That's right. And
It's
now
true.
we're LGBTQ. I mean, that's how far we've been able to come in,
Yes.
in 29 years. It's ridiculous.
But it was like not even a question.
Significant,
Right?
right.
It's like, wait a minute. No, it's like nobody should be treated disrespectfully.
Right.
Nobody. Right.
Right.
And Tom Potter, to his credit, that's when I met Tom Potter for the first time, was at a No on 9 organizing event that we was doing. And what I loved about him, he was a police chief, but he
Right.
would come in and roll his sleeves up and stuff envelopes and
It
make
was,
phone calls.
it was a really hard time for gays and lesbians because we
was.
were like, the police aren't doing what
Yes.
you are leading us to be, and
Right.
it was frustrating. And it's nice to know that there's somebody on the inside who's going to be able to help keep
Well, you
pushing
know-
the police in the right direction,
Well, it's wonderful not having the police bureau in my portfolio.
right?
It is so wonderful.
I would imagine there must
Right?
be a little freeing.
People keep trying to get the mayor to give it to me, and I keep saying no, thank you. Right? Like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I got all the other first responders. Don't really need the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to.
So what do you think of this idea, by the way, of splitting into the council ideas?
Oh yes. So what I think is the people who are being governed get to decide how they want to be governed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the solution should come from City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I think in 2021, when we put the Charter Review Commission in place, we should have meetings all over the city, getting information from the governed about how they want to be governed. I do snicker a bit when it's finally a female majority that all of a sudden we got to change this because all of a
Right.
sudden it's out of control, right?
Okay, I'm so glad I'm not the only one
No,
who
no,
had that
you're
thought.
not the
There's
only
no
one.
one in the media is saying
No,
that.
Right. But let me also say this. It is really, we are not limited by our form of government. We are only limited by the leadership that's in place.
Right.
I'm not stuck in a little silo boxes that they put me in. I will manage those boxes, but I will go over those boxes and under those boxes and go wherever I need to go to represent the people in the city of Portland, right? And so I think that's an excuse for inaction. What I've learned is we have $6 billion of deferred maintenance because most politicians want to deal with it in year 6, so their 5-year plan doesn't
Right.
have to include it, right?
Sure.
And so, like the parks, we have a $7 million deficit this year in the parks. It's not a new deficit.
Right.
That deficit has existed for a long time, right? But we get politicians who just defer it to later, right? And then you put the most popular things on the chopping block so that the public gets crazed, right? And come out and demand you fund that. And then they do. And then we really haven't fixed the problem,
Right.
which is that the way we finance the things we care about is not sufficient. And we got to change that.
So and you're thinking that after our next kind of set of major elections that we would start having that conversation in 20.
Oh no, I want to have it right after this budget is voted on.
Okay,
right?
good. All right.
Because
so that we're ready to go in 2021.
So that you can ask good questions of people who want to represent you.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you can get commitments from people that you can actually hold them accountable
Well,
to
and
once they get in office.
Sure, and it'll be a new thing for regions to actually have to think of themselves as a group and start thinking about some of those questions, that affect each of those regions.
I can tell you, just like my campaign,
Mm-hmm.
I got donations from $5 to $5,000, with $5,000 being my ex-mother-in-law, right? And I got campaigns, contributions at the low level because I did the house parties, right? And I didn't go to developers and realtors and the people who are used to picking our elected leaders.
Right.
I went to your neighbors,
Right.
right? I went to people's homes. I went and made the case to the people who were going to vote for me, right? I hope if my election showed people anything, is that we don't have to go to the big money people if you've actually done the work and you can make the case. I was not taken off my campaign plan. People kept telling me in the beginning, you got to be on TV. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know anybody that watches TV. Why would I be on TV, right? In the primary, one of my major opponents spent $147,000 on TV.
Oh my gosh.
I spent $0 on TV, and I got 40% of the vote in the primary with 7 candidates. I was annoyed because then I had to do it again.
Right.
But clearly, my desire not to be on TV, because I actually thought, why would I spend $147,000 on TV when I can actually go out and talk to the people who are going to vote for me?
Sure.
Right? So I'm hoping, and not just me, I've seen this all over the country this last election cycle. And I'm old, right? But there's some young, kick-ass women all across the country who have all of a sudden decided, I'm not waiting my turn. These people are crazy. We've allowed the men to take over forever, and look at how they screwed it up.
Right.
So we're just going to take it back, right? And those women are kicking butt all over the country.
Right.
I love that, right? And that's what we should expect here, right? I hope what we've done is create a new normal.
Yes.
Where people will not accept the sound bites, the political consultant speech, right? Because the person that was the political consultant for my opponent just got fired by the mayor's re-election campaign.
Is that right?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why the mayor would have hired him.
No kidding.
He hasn't won anything in a long time, right? So it's kind of weird to think. And so I didn't need a political consultant because I was connected to the people and the community.
And yet, not only that, but the political consultants, if you will, you invited them up on stage with you at your acceptance. Two volunteer women, first of all, that you acknowledged that were a big part of your campaign.
Anna Ning was my campaign manager.
Yeah.
Phenomenal young woman that I recruited from New Orleans right after she got the first African-American woman elected mayor.
Awesome.
She hadn't even won her election yet when I was like recruiting her. Okay, you got to do something next. You need to come to Portland, right? So that was Anna. Okay. And then Carly Edwards, who was my campaign chair, who was not paid, right? So I had 4 whole campaign staff that were paid through my general election, right? But my campaign team were awesome. They were all under 35, and they were awesome, right? But yes, that's who I had. So I had this little tiny team.
How has the rest of the commission responded to you running that kind of an election? Other people have said, that you should have spent more money, or that you should have done it in a different way. Has it shaken any of the commissioners up? Do they like, hey, wait a minute, you actually did that?
What's funny is they say, we don't need to change our form of government because, look, Jo Ann got elected. I've told them, do not use me as the example, right? Because I got elected in spite of the system that we have.
Exactly.
Right, not
That's
because
exactly
of it.
right.
Right. And the reality is that it costs too much to run for office, period, right?
Right.
When I first decided to run, I was told if I was even going to have any chance of being considered credible, I had to raise $250,000.
Right.
I don't know people with $250,000,
No.
right? Right. So luckily, in 2020, the next public finance system at the city of Portland will be in place. I think that will be a game changer.
Cool.
So a $50 donation will now become a $300 donation, right? That's huge, which means regular people who have a constituency can make the case for why they should run and serve in public office, right?
Right.
I think we have to change. We have to take money out of politics. It's not the fact that we're running citywide. That's problematic, right?
Sure.
But the fact that we have people we have unlimited money in Oregon politics.
Right.
I don't
Just
know.
so long as you disclose it, so apparently, but who's looking at that?
Right. And most regular people, even if you're looking at it, you're not connecting the dots, right?
Right.
Because you don't understand how those dots are connected.
Right.
So now that we've depressed everybody.
I know, right? When I started this show, I was like, no, I don't think I ever want to do politics. And so I'm so
Right.
glad I didn't have a politician on the show.
I hear you. Yes, right? Organizers, yes.
I have worked on so many different questions over the last 3 weeks. There is like 1,000 things that I know I'm forgetting.
That are going through your head at the moment.
And it's all just.
Am I stressing you out?
No, quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. And it's such a lovely experience to know that I, lived here my entire life, 44 years. It's the first time that I think I can actually pick up the phone and call the city commissioner's office and get a response. I mean, there's an actual human being that's willing to come sit next to me. I'm it's fantastic. I was saying earlier that my childhood dream, was to run my own theater. And I never knew exactly what that was going to be. And then just out of the blue, I decided, I'm going to start doing a podcast. And so that's my dream right now, living right, and you're in it. So welcome to it. So before we get into the Portland questionnaire, anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
Let me just say that I am having a great time. I don't know if all of City Hall is having a great time. There's something about being right where you think you should be at the right time in your life, right?
Right.
When I decided to run, I told you anger was my motivating factor, and it really, really was, right? Because I just knew we were better than what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And the campaign just reinforced that for me over and over and over again. Portlanders are very generous people. We just have to ask them, right? I used to say, what would it have been like had the mayor on his first day in office said, I need help. We're in a crisis. I'm going to set up a hotline. Tell me what you got, right? I suspect Portlanders would have stepped up in volumes, right?
Right.
And they would have come up with ideas that we had never imagined. Part of my work with the Portland Clean Energy Fund Initiative, do you know about that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you guys know about that? All right. So the Portland Clean Energy Fund Initiative was an initiative created by communities of color. Because we were kind of tired of the city of Portland developing all these set-aside programs and that were going to help women and minority business owners. And every decade, the city had a new program. But when you looked at the outcomes didn't really benefit people of color and women business owners. In fact, when you really disaggregated the numbers, what you find is white women were actually I would say white men, because white women were the primary beneficiaries of public contracts, at least on paper. Because on paper, they were 51% owners.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so what we realized with the Portland Clean Energy Fund Initiative was that we couldn't wait for the city to develop a program that would center communities of color, frontline communities, who have been harmed over and over and over again, right? By city policies and practices.
Right.
So the NAACP Portland branch, the Native American Youth and Adult Association, Verde, that works primarily with a Latino population, 350 PDX, Sierra Club, and I'm forgetting someone, Apano, Asian Pacific Islander Network of Oregon. So we got together and decided we could create a ballot measure. We could tax large retail box operations, increase their business income tax by 1%, just 1%, and create a pool of resources that we could focus on those left out of the economic engine by developing good family wage employment opportunities in this new green energy field,
Right.
right? Now, before then, when I would talk to people talking about this new emerging industry, they'd be white, they'd be male, and I'd say, so, like, where are the women? Where are the people of color? Like, when's that going to happen? Oh, don't worry, we're going to take care of that, right? And so we put together this coalition. We developed this ballot measure. We did a lot of court fights with Portland Business Alliance, and they lost all of them.
Awesome.
And then we took it to the voters. And by a vote of like 68% of the public in Portland, we won this ballot measure overwhelmingly. Now, at the time, we thought $35 to $40 million a year. So the revenue director has recently informed me it's more like 80 to 100 million new dollars a year.
Oh my gosh.
As you can imagine, there are people at City Hall trying to get their grubby little fingers on this money, right? But I am there to make sure that that money is spent as the voters intended, right? I am so proud of that work because that is the first time in Oregon's history that communities of color led a proactive ballot measure. We're so used to being defensive, right? We're so used to fighting against stuff. But to be able to paint a picture of what's possible when we collectively work together for a common good, that's one of my most proudest achievements, is because I took the time to build this coalition. So the coalition is solid.
Right.
So when folks start coming in trying to get their hands on our money,
They're going to have to be going through several layers to try to even get that.
they're going to have to get through me.
Well, yeah,
And then
right.
this coalition, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I just want people to know that's coming. And in fact, I understand by April of 2020, the money will start flowing. So you'll see opportunities to be on the committee.
Great.
Because who's on the committee matters. Because they'll be making decisions about who gets funded.
Sure.
But the vision is, it's about supporting the people. The city of Portland does a great job of getting people into pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. And they really suck at getting people into journeyman status.
And
Once you're a journeyman, you can go anywhere in the country and get $35 an hour to start. So why is it that we're so good at the pre-apprenticeship, the flag holders and people who are like at the front end,
sure.
but we don't? Because we have no accountability standards, right? So we develop these fancy programs with no outcome measures that we're judging, right? Now, so I get accused of being the angry black woman or the bully
Sure.
because I ask direct questions.
Exactly, right?
Do I look like a bully?
No.
Do I sound like a bully?
No.
Right?
No, and of course,
Don't
so
you
people
want
are making
answers?
people, of course, are making that decision of you being a bully, of course, on the color of your skin and your gender.
Isn't that wrong?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm like,
And
how can I be
it's-
a bully? I'm nice.
Right.
I didn't curse once. Didn't raise my voice, right?
I can't imagine what it's like to be you. And one of the questions I had for you now that I've thought about it is, what's your self-care regimen like? I can't imagine. I honestly don't know what it must be like to be you. That I must. You have to have something that grounds you and keeps you solid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so first I looked down at my nails. If my nails are ragged, that means I have not done self-care as I'm supposed to.
I love
Right?
that.
That's number one. Number two is I disappear for 3-day blocks, right?
Okay.
And my staff used to think that just meant that I wouldn't be in the office. when I say I'm gone, gone. Right? That means no email, no Facebook, no phones, no texts.
Wow.
I know how to disappear. I am good at disappearing.
Wow.
But here's what's funny. I had no idea how public being a city commissioner would be. So I ride Max because I like riding public transit because it costs a small fortune to park downtown.
Yeah.
Right? And so every day is a focus group. It is absolutely fabulous. I mean, people will go, "Hey, aren't you, Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yes,
And
I
what
am.
is your
And what would you
question?
like to know?
Right,
Right?
right.
Yeah, not just
What do
yes,
you
I
wanna
am,
know?
and had been.
I love it. I love what I'm doing. This is the right job at the right time, right? I could be retiring, riding off into the sunset in my rocking chair, just kind of chilling, right?
Gearhart,
But I love it. I know, right? That's where my fire chief went. He went to
Exactly.
Gerhardt, right? But it wasn't about me.
No.
So anybody that told you that he quit as soon as I showed up, no. He is a decent man. He's a wonderful man. And who can blame a man that wants to sleep with his wife at night, right?
Yay, you know?
Right? I thought that's okay. They've been
I
married
can't
40-some
understand.
years. Hey, right? But you know, we can't judge, right? We can't judge, right? To each his own.
Okay, with that, we're going to go into the questionnaire.
All right, moving on.
Okay, that sound means it's time for the Portland questionnaire. Jo Ann, are you ready for the Portland
I am
questionnaire?
ready.
Okay.
Bring it on.
What is your favorite smell in Portland?
My favorite smell. Ooh, that sounds like a trick question, doesn't it? My favorite smell would be coffee.
I'll get you a cup right now.
Right after the lemon drop, yes.
What's your favorite sound in Portland?
Oh, any blues or jazz or any live music that just brings me joy.
Well, you're in store for a good show tonight.
I know, right? I know this fabulous young woman who's going to be singing.
What's your favorite bridge in Portland?
My favorite bridge is the Selwood because it's the only bridge that will still be standing after the earthquake.
Right?
I know, right? Right?
Oh my gosh, it would just tip right over. So you've already been the answer to this question. What famous Portlandian would you like to meet?
Oh, let's see. Who is it that I haven't met that I'd like to
Right.
meet? You know,
You met everyone?
that I wanted to meet. Yeah.
I love that.
So far, I can't think of anybody that
It's not like you haven't been around.
I've been around a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I should just skip that one because I can't think of anybody yet.
Well, I think being the answer to that question once is good enough. Okay, so what is your most likely weekend breakfast? 3 a.m. at the Hot Cake House, 6 a.m. at Stumptown Coffee, 10 a.m. for brunch right here at the Slide Inn next door.
Oh, 10 a.m. brunch at the Slide In, of course. Hey.
There you go. If you could rename any Portland street, which street and for who would you name it for?
I would rename Broadway the Gladys McCoy Boulevard.
Oh, I love that. And even the McCoy Bridge. I would love that.
That would be
Right?
good too. Yeah, right.
In that makes a lot of sense. All right. Okay, now I have something to really put down into words. We're going to do that. Okay, now if you were a tree, which Portland area park would you like to be planted in?
Oh, I'd be in Forest Park.
Right?
Yeah, I'd be in Forest Park, definitely.
With all your friends. With
With all my
of your other
friends,
tree
right?
friends.
With all my standing brothers and sisters.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, your city commissioner, Jo Ann Hardesty. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so here's the part where I do these ads. So My Real Portland is brought to you by me, Joseph Lyons, realtor in the streets, podcaster in the sheets. I help home buyers and sellers across the Portland metro area make their real dreams become real estate. Learn more about me at josephlyons.com. And My Real Portland is brought to you in part by a contribution from Tom Dwyer Automotive. And as well as my boss, Ernest Cooper, who runs Cooper Realty. He's a Rose Citizen sponsor of My Real Portland, Ernest Cooper. And his Northwest Portland boutique agency represents homeowners and home buyers at all across the Portland metro area. For more information, contact Ernest Cooper at 503-515-8426 or visit cooperrealtyllc.net to learn more. So, my final guest has performed at Portland's Waterfront Blues Festival, the Portland Rose Festival, and she's performed with the extraordinary Janice Scroggins, Norman Sylvester, and once opened for New Shoes. New Shoes. Does anyone know who New Shoes is? You can catch her with Gabby Holt at the Alberta Street Pub on April 28th. Please welcome to the My Real Portland stage, Laura Ivancie.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Thanks so much for having me, Joseph, and everyone for coming out. Appreciate it. It's been a while since I've been at the Jade Lounge. I think we're thinking 6 to 10 years maybe. When I was first starting out, I came here because they had a beautiful acoustic singer-songwriter community that would gather here. It's nice to be back, come full circle. Yeah, the first song I'm going to share with you guys today is a pretty new one. It's called Hear Me Right. And it was a cool story. I got invited to write a song for a global network of musicians. It's called the Acoustic Guitar Project. And this guy in New York started it for singer-songwriters mostly. And what he does is he's paired up with some major guitar companies. And they give you a guitar, and they say, write a song in a week. You have 7 days, and you can record it in a Zoom recorder in your bedroom. You don't get to edit it or anything like that. And so it was a challenge of sorts, because I've never really written a song in that short amount of time under a pressure situation. So I was really pleased with what came of it, and the story that inspired it. As any songwriter or writer would know, there's some kind of boiling and bubbling that happens on an idea that just started to appear in my life. And I suppose the best way to explain it is I was realizing that situations were happening where I was realizing how important anger was in my life and how it's a motivator for me to be assertive, more assertive. So you understand, some people want to pass their anger off as something that's negative, or in any case, more women, I think, struggle with this maybe than they realize, and I was realizing that I was struggling with it as well because of some situations that happened. So this song's called Hear Me Right, R-I-G-H-T. Mama always said, get every business deal in writing. Daddy always said, don't go in the field with boys alone. I could hear each lesson and I learned it after I was fucked. I lament because I didn't smell it coming through the duct. Seems experience is still the only way to see the light. Now I stand tall, get myself angry, cause it helps them hear me right. Hear me right. Why does everybody seem to tell each other what to do? What to think, who to be, and how to feel when they're not you? Is it just a woman's burden that we're all trained to be nice? 'Cause it doesn't yield results, it only makes them all think twice. Less is more if you're a whore. With all your words, just keep it tight. Now I stand tall, get myself angry, 'cause it helps them hear me right. Hear me right. Why blame and play the victim? I'm satisfied once I know I've flipped them, and I am the hero of the story now. Ooh, Every wound is just a gift that takes you deeper with yourself. I am wise when I retire painful chapters to the shelf. Not to forget, but to forgive. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. Why fear a life that is designed to rip your heart out through your chest? Move along and don't look back at what you know will always bite. Now I stand tall, get myself angry, 'cause it helps them hear me right. Hear me right. Hear me right. Hear me Thanks so much. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Joseph.
Can we get this on? Okay. So, Laura,
Yes.
welcome to My Real Portland. That's phenomenal. The reason why I have this show is I wasn't getting out of my house, and I wanted to. I realized that if I was going to get out of the house, I needed to create the show that I wanted to go see. And so thank you for making this yet another fabulous night. I am so grateful to have you here. How long have you been singing and songwriting for?
In front of people, probably 10 years.
10 years.
Maybe a little bit longer, not too much longer.
And this was one of the venues that you started out in.
I would say so, yes.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing. Now, your trajectory is taking off. You've been touring around regionally now.
Yes.
Yeah. And what kinds of projects are you working on?
Well, I just got off a really big project, actually, with a major producer in Malibu. We did a Kickstarter, GoFundMe for that. We raised about $5,000, and it's partially completed, I would say, and it's wonderful, actually. It's not finished, so we're still working on that piece, and I also have aspirations to produce myself. So that's a whole new ball of wax and a whole new world that I am really excited to do, because honestly, a producer is just someone you're paying for an opinion. So I really am excited to start integrating my opinions. Although I'm proud of everything we've made, I still feel like my authentic sound is yet to come. So
that your authentic sound is yet to come. What a powerful statement.
Thank you.
How do you know what that will, what to expect when that happens? Do you know how you will notice it?
It is a great question. It will tell me, as these songs usually do. It's going to be a new adventure for me, honestly. So I'm in a great place for it. It's the perfect timing, as Jo Ann was saying. When you feel like you're in the right place at the right time. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've dipped my head into the modeling and what is out there, and I've been grateful and honored that I've gotten to touch some of those stages and some of those people and places and see how the industry works. And I feel like there's not a school for what I am or what I want to become or what's already out there. Like, I'm kind of disillusioned with what I see, to be honest with you.
Oh,
In the mainstream, yeah.
So if you're disillusioned by what you see, what do you do in your... Does your music talk about that, or do you get your music through and come out the other end of it?
Yes, it does. And what I've realized is some of the bigger opportunities that have come my way, my music that I've written that does talk about that wasn't prioritized, wasn't wanted. So that's the whole point of why I got into this in the first place. So I'm just sort of like, hey, you can't see my finger right now. That's not me. And if you want who I really am, you know, it's going to take some time for people to see. But I think if you build it, they will come. And I'm continuing to build it. Mm-hmm. Really, truly.
And, you know, this being able to get into production and self-production, there's so many fantastic opportunities, and it sounds like you're about to match all of those things up at some point soon.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get the downloads in your own life of what you want to be, the TV host, or I've always wanted to be a producer. I've always, you know, wanted to learn how to be an engineer, and for whatever reason my path has taken me to be on big stages and to be performing with major musicians and all these things, which is great, and I needed that experience to really realize where I really need to go now. So like, I'm hearing the messages, they're very loud, louder than they've ever been.
Before we talk about those messages just a little bit, I want to ask you about, though, a band that you've performed with. Band that was very popular when I was a kid, New Shoes. Is everyone familiar with New Shoes? Was that like a big win for you? Like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Absolutely. It was interesting how it all happened, of course. In a nutshell, I was looking to get booked at the Portland Rose Festival. I was doing electronic music at the time, and so they put me on a smaller stage to do that, and Tony DeMacaulay, who books the Portland Rose Festival, said, hey, you want to open for New Shoes, just acoustic, 30 minutes or whatever? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, of course I want to open for New Shoes on the main stage at the Portland Rose Festival. Are you kidding? And I, of course, was very nervous, as we all are, probably more than we admit. And I went out there, and as I was playing, like, Tony was like, okay, now it's 15 minutes. And my manager at the time was like, no, she's going to stay up there. So they're kind of having this backyard conversation or backstage, and everybody was digging it. And so I got to do that, and it was really interesting, because when that happened, my former manager, that person at the time, knew some of the members of the band of New Shoes, and we ended up putting a band together with you know, some of those members. So like Gary, the bass player. And we ended up doing the Blues Fest together with Gary and his band, because I got booked for the Blues Fest shortly thereafter, strangely, and I needed a really good band for that. So all those pieces came together because of that opening, because of another booking agent I had that got me into the Rose Festival, that, you know, petitioned me for the Blues Fest, and I had some history with Janice and Reggie, and so Reggie's name helped me get into the Blues Fest as well, and some of the times that he's mentored me a little. So I mean, I was just really, it's just luck a lot of the time, maybe, and just, you got to be at the right place at the right time, and just work hard. You can't just eat a sandwich, as Jim Carrey would say. Also, it has to be your path, you know. So I was lucky, fortunate, and I got to meet Valerie Day, who is just a lovely, lovely human being, and her husband as well. And that was a big moment for me because of just the history of her and really just who she is as a human being. So I was really stoked to meet her. She saw me, I think it was the Rose Fest? It wasn't the Rose Fest. It was something else. I can't remember the show. Anyway, she came up to me and actually made a point to say good job to me and all that, which was really, really nice at this other big show that we did. So, you know, that always means a lot when people you look up to come up to you and they say, hey.
Absolutely.
You're like, hey, this is an affirmation, yeah? I'm on the right path. So it was really, really good moments, you know?
That is awesome.
Yeah.
You know how you hear us, you hear never meet your heroes, but Valerie Day is just somebody that I've heard of forever, so it's great to hear that she's just as lovely in person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have a famous last name. in Portland. It's a very unique, famous last name. To people who have been here for a number of generations will recognize the last name Ivancie. And your grandfather was mayor of Portland in the 50s. Is that right?
I was like 80 to 85.
Was it that recent?
70, 81. It was, I think it was 78 to 81, honestly, or like 80, 85. So I was not even born. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Late
early
70s. Okay, all right.
Late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. It's right
So
on the cusp.
obviously not a terribly important part of your life. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. I do remember going to campaigns, and also my father ran for county commissioner a couple times, and we would go door to door with him and go to many churches and campaign for him, and he ended up losing both of those. But he was really trying to follow a lot in my grandfather's footsteps, which was awesome, and what a great experience for me to grow up being a person that's also here to do social work or like social activism work. I feel inherently in my spirit. So it's no wonder that I was born to this family. So.
Unlike Jo Ann, who's from Baltimore, and Nathan, who's from Florida, you're from here. What's the biggest change that you've noticed in Portland? How would you describe the change to somebody who asks?
Well, I mean.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, I mean. Honestly, gentrification would have to say, because when I was younger, there was a lot more small or mom and pop businesses and things like that I would go to. So, and venues and things that I've slowly watched disappear.
Right.
And I would say it's hopefully become a lot more diverse. But I've seen the gentrification that, how North Portland and Northeast Portland has dramatically shifted since I was a kid. And
right. It's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, and I have a lot more I could say about that. I'm not going to right now. But I hope that the changes that are here and that are coming are good. I try to focus on those, how good business or bigger businesses or more jobs and opportunities for people to work and come up with creative solutions to help other people of backgrounds that need it because they have the power to. Mm-hmm. And hopefully more of that will happen.
Yes.
So yeah, I think gentrification is the biggest one.
Yeah. One of those questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask, but it popped into my head. Okay, so let's get off of that. How can people follow you, and where are you performing next?
Sure. Well, LauraIvancie.com is my website. I have my schedule up there. The next show that I would love you guys to come to if you feel like it. I have a band joining me. People that I've been playing with off and on for about 10 years that are just soul brothers and sisters. We'll be playing April 28th, which I believe is a Sunday, and it's a happy hour, so it's 6 to 7:45. There's two bands. Gabby Holt's band will be playing, and I'll be joining her. That's her residency every Sunday, so we go back, her and I, and just two ladies fronting bands, rocking it, and trying to make the world a better place, eh? So come on down, help us out. It's all ages. Oh, Alberta's, no, it's not actually, it's at the Alberta Street Pub. Alberta Street Pub, which actually has an amazing sound system now. If you haven't been there since they remodeled it and everything, I'm really great back patio and everything, and they're becoming definitely a hub for touring acts on a whole other level than they've ever been. So it's really cool to be back there again as well.
Awesome. You ready for the Portland questionnaire?
Sure.
And that sound means it's time for the third Portland questionnaire. So, Laura, what's your favorite smell in Portland?
Roses.
Aww. I
Cherry
should have like
blossoms.
an answer for like the right thing for the right answer. That's the right answer.
Is it the right answer?
I didn't think there were right answers to these questions, but so I'm surprised. Now this will be telling. What's your favorite sound in Portland?
Oh gosh, I mean, from the sound of, I know this sounds cheesy. I'm just thinking it's cheesy as I hear it in my own head. The sound of people talking about things that aren't Kim Kardashian or, what's happening in Hollywood in any way, shape, or form. Just the sound of philosophy, philosophizing, and those deep, conscious conversations that I feel this city, we get to have them here more than other places. And I get to have them in my Lyft. I drive for Lyft part-time too, and I love it. I get to meet everyone from this city all the time, and we have these deep talks. Everyone's so smart here. We know what's going on. We just sometimes feel powerless, and we don't know the action steps, and that's what I'm noticing. And thank you, Jo Ann, for your work. Ugh, so admire you, and I'm so happy I got to meet you, 10 years ago? And I want to help you too, and let's help Jo Ann, because she is on the beat, and we need leaders like her. Thank you.
So that was your favorite sound.
Strange, right? I know it's strange.
Wait,
Thank you.
honestly, no, that is
It's a bubble here.
just hearing people make good thoughts. Oh, yeah. That's great.
Yes.
So what is your favorite bridge in Portland?
Oh, St. John's.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's Gothic, beautiful, artsy bridge that just doesn't look like any of the other ones. And I love St. John's. It's like a city inside of a city here, right?
Yeah.
So, special vibe.
That still exists.
Yeah.
What famous Portlandian would you most like to meet?
Dead or alive? Does it matter?
One of each. No, either or, it doesn't matter.
Great.
Mine's dead, actually.
Oh, see? Who's
Mel
yours?
Blanc.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Dead. You know, I'd love to meet Linda Hornbuckle.
Right.
Just have a glass of wine with her and talk about her history, her motivation. She was an inspiration to many blues artists,
Yeah.
and so pure of heart. And she touched blues and jazz and soul so eloquently. She was blues, jazz, and soul
Right.
through and through, and very moving and authentic. I would say her as the deceased and alive. Esperanza Spalding would probably be my next. I would love to play with her on a stage somewhere. I think that would be like a great manifestation if we could all think that at the same time right now. We could do it. We could create it.
She is on my dream list. Her brother was at my October show.
Oh, great.
And so I'm like,
Hook it up, Joseph.
right? I know. Right?
Oh, yeah, right? Let's hook this up.
Oh, let's
I
do
know.
that. Oh, we can do
What an
that.
inspiration. What an innovator. Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm thinking, yeah, that needs to happen. We're going to do that.
I feel like we have the same vibe.
So where are we most likely to find you for weekend breakfast? 3 a.m. at the Hot Cake House, 6 a.m. at Stumptown Coffee, or 11 a.m. for brunch right here at the Slide Inn? Or a fourth option of your choice?
Yeah, none of those.
None of those.
No offense, Slide In.
Eugene's not here tonight.
I don't know. This is tough.
I've been doing intermittent fasting, so I'm not even doing breakfast anymore.
Yeah, gosh, I can't think of place. Where do I eat on the weekends? Help. Call it out. You know.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Where do you go? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there you
I
go.
haven't heard of any of those places. I cook at home, honestly. I'm such a domesticated.
Home. Well, home is a good answer.
Yeah. I like that. What's that place? Crema? Place is pretty good.
Crema?
I suck at this question.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Here's another question
Eats
you can
Oyster
suck at.
Bar on Saturdays.
Oh, there you go.
Box of chocolates. Check them out. Endless Bloody Marys, oysters.
So if you could
Nolans.
rename any Portland street, which name and for who? Or which street and for who?
I would rename Couch Street to Cooch Street. You get it. You get it. It's spelled C-O-U-C-H. Cooch.
I'm actually working on a video for the 25 most mispronounced Portland names, and I had to figure out that Cooch is a pronunciation of the last name from Scotland.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, right? I've always wondered that, and now I have an answer. If you were a tree, which Portland area park would you most like to be planted in?
Japanese Gardens. Does that count? It's not a park.
Yeah, that's
So
a
it can't,
park.
is it a park?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
private. You have
Yeah,
to
I
pay
would-
to get in.
Yeah, that's true. Well then, thank you.
Worth the price of admission.
Then I would say the waterfront. If I, it would be a cherry blossom on the waterfront.
Oh, there you
obviously,
go.
just watching everyone go by, and I get to see the Blues Fest. I mean,
You get to see all
Saturday
the best
Market,
concerts.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
You got a couple more songs in you?
of course.
All right.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, one
Thanks,
more
everybody.
time, lady Laura Ivancie.
Thank you, guys. All right. So I'm going to do one called, well, this is a great, I'm going to do these older ones, but they're so true. They're so relevant still in my life and what's been going on recently. It's a little bit about my journey as a musician so far in business and selling myself and just a little bit about that exploitation and how it's also been difficult to know who to trust and how to present myself, and also just how hard it is to sell yourself as a product and as a person, as a product. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is called Dollar Bills, and it'll seg into just business. Throw me your dollar bills, baby. How much do you really love me? Throw me your dollar bills, baby. I'm working hard for you. I see you buying nothing, must be selling something. That's how everybody lives. I know I'm a good investment. I'll pay you back every dime on time. Might be in other ways. Hold my interest, please. I'll sign my name if you comply. Woo, throw me your dollar bills, baby. How much do you love me? Throw me your dollar bills, baby. I'm working hard for you. It's all about the money and I need it, honey. Come on, reward me, 'cause I'm funny. Ba, 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 yeah. Skim, dim, 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 yeah. Skip it, beep, 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 beep. Skip it, beep, 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 yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Show you good returns in time. First from your hands and over into mine. This gift that I've been given has become my living. Credit me your cash to shine. Woo! Throw me your dollar bills, baby. How much do you love me? Throw me your dollar bills, baby. I'm working hard for you. I'm not a hit and run or liability, hon. Leave your deductible in front. How will you choose to spend your hard-earned money, friends? I'll have you know that I'm a guarantee that what you see is what you get with me. And I pour our change into the cup. Everyone is holding up the age of apathy where nothing is free. So would you just please throw me your dollar bills, baby? How much do you love me? Throw me your dollar bills, baby. I'm working hard for you. You might as well give in. I'll never stop asking. In the end, we all will win. They got watches, they got potions, got the clout to take you through the motions, and they just smile, leave you stuck, a sitting duck if you start making them a buck. I'm pulling rabbits out of hats, wow, I'm playing hardball, I'm herding cats. Drop my emotion, raise my gun. It's nothing personal, it's nothing fun, it's just business, baby. That's what they say. It's just business, baby. And it's a hustle every day. It's just business, baby. That's what they say, yeah. It's just business, baby, yeah. But what you don't know, you won't pay. Hey, they talk big, they tap emotion. They've got the balls to ask you for the ocean, and they just might blow you up. With any luck, stay on your feet, don't give it up. I'm feeling hungry, need some food. Wow, they're at my table, empty hands out. If I can't eat, you cannot come. It's nothing personal, nothing fun. It's just business, baby. That's what they say. It's just business, baby. And it's a hustle every day. It's just business, baby. That's what they say, yeah. It's just business, baby, yeah. But what you don't know, you won't pay. Yeah, I try to be trusting. I wanna believe. I only end up feeling so stupid and naive. And I fall for the line so sweet. Myself, I won't let them cheat. Is it only safe to rely on me? Is it only safe? Yeah, yeah. I show up on my heart. Why do I feel like I'm a horse pulling a cart? This must be some kind of art. They think they're smart and selling me my every part. I'm feeling like I'm a confused girl. Have to start acting like a man in a man's world. Bringing us back to square one. It's nothing personal. It's nothing fun. It's just business, baby. That's what they say. It's just business, baby. And it's a hustle every single day. Business, baby. That's what they say, yeah. It's just business, baby, yeah. But what you don't know, what you don't know, what you don't know, you will pay. Yeah. Thank you. Know what I mean? You want me to keep going? One more? Cool. Right on. All right. Yeah. It was tough. All right. So I'm going to do this song called Scrutiny. Long story short, I got hired for an acting gig. Out of all the jobs I've had, it was the weirdest. I've never done it before, and you know, the director had seen me perform. I got to open for a really amazing artist, and they were like, "We want her. Let's hire her." So I went down there, and I wrote this song. It's the title of the docudrama that may or may not be coming out. We'll see. But they chose the song. They chose the song as the theme song. So it was an unanimous vote, cast and crew. I was like, yes, there's something here. It's called Scrutiny. And hopefully you'll get something out of it. I definitely feel like the show was about women empowerment. So that's always a really good beat for me. And we all come from our backgrounds, and why are we here? Okay, so. I wanna dance to the beat of my own heart's drum. I wanna transcend the past that I came from.
just the cards that were shown, no fault of my own. Does it really matter? We've come here to shatter, and everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story under scrutiny. Hear my courage as I roar. I was scarred to the core. A damaged soul, I admit. Now I am moved past it. Does it really matter? We've come here to shatter, and everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story under scrutiny. Vague memory, what I chose, I question it all. Who really knows? I dare to stare at my skeleton so bare, and I set myself free. I am who I've come here to be. I learned to read between the lines, survived who I played, and in the final chapter, I am more than my pain. Does it really matter? We've come here to shatter, and everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story under scrutiny. Scrutiny. Thank you. Thanks so much, Joseph. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Laura Ivancie.
You guys.
Let's hear it again for all my guests. Laura Ivancie, City Commissioner Jo Ann Hart. I just said. City Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty. And comedian Nathan Hart. We'll be back on the second Sunday of next month. We'll see you here at 6 o'clock. Good night.
It's always been home, I've always been here, I've always got time for one more beer. So pick up a beer and pull up a chair and strike up the band. It's my real Portland.